you guys, one of my good mates flew in from the UK, staying with me, and I think he got me sick. So we'll see. No physical symptoms in terms of my energy levels, just that my throat sounds horrible. And I don't have a sore throat or anything, just after you hear me talk for a little bit, you'll get used to it. Guys, not the busiest week of boxing, but we do have that Africa card. So in this video, we're going to talk about that card. They did open up our book, which is great. I was getting message from all sides because it seemed like my group, a couple other groups online were like sitting for the last few days looking at our betting apps, kind of like fiends, waiting to see if we were going to get odds. And then as soon as the odds opened up, I got like 10 messages on Instagram, text messages. So I posted it in our Discord. Speaking of the Discord, thanks to all the boys who've supported the channel so far. We launched that Discord about 2 weeks ago. Basically, to get access to the Discord, you subscribe here on YouTube. You click the link. Johnny says Boxing Insiders, and then it's a couple bucks a month. That gives you access to all of the gambling advice. Become part of our community. And yeah, moving forward, like I said, I got the card in front of me, the African card. We're going to build a parlay. There's a UFC card. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, just because I've been hitting a lot on the UFC, and I usually wait till Thursday to talk about it. My Thursday, your Wednesday. So we could talk about that if you like. There's some interesting matchups to make money on that card as well. And then, we could just move forward like we always do on this chat. Wherever you're tuning in, as you're checking in, let me know how everything's going, how your week is going. Let's like this video. And I'm going to stay on for about an hour. I'm going to upload Mirko Cuello and Sergio Rios. The reason why I haven't uploaded my Cuello versus Rios Stats Don't Lie video yet is because I didn't have odds on it. And part of one of the segments on that video series, my fight predictions, is breaking down the Vegas odds. And I was kind of handcuffed. So usually by this time during the week, it's Wednesday morning my time, I would have already uploaded 2 or 3 Stats Don't Lie videos. So I'm sitting here like, come on, man, I need to upload some. And finally the odds came out. So just get ready for that. I'm going to be uploading a lot of videos in the next few days. Boxing fans in the house, History Vault. Have I checked my messages? History, what messages? What site? Because History Vault, I get messages on my email, my Instagram, my Facebook, Discord. Let me know which one. Aaron Gianella, what's up, buddy? Goats in the house. Let's get into it, Sox. Okay, I'll check it after this. I haven't checked. I went to the Discord as soon as I woke up, and I didn't see the message. Julius Armstrong, Sofian should stop Fonseca. Yeah, it's funny you say that, Julius, because somebody in the Discord talked about they wanted to see the Sofian fight. He's a 6-0 French fighter, and he's fighting a guy with 42 pro fights. So one of the boys in the Discord was like, they're interested in seeing Sofian fight, but they could see a draw. They were like, some of the boys were picking draw. I haven't watched much tape on Umiha, Sofian Umiha. What's the big deal about him? So, Julius Armstrong, because you're the second guy, the second person in literally the last 30 minutes who brought up Sofian Umiha, a 6-0 Frenchman. Would somebody sell me on him? Because he wasn't even on my radar. The 3 fights I'm breaking down on my Stats Don't Lie video series is the Ramirez fight, the Cuello fight, and Mike Perez. But I might switch out Sofian Umiha if you guys want me to do that fight. Because you got Elber Ramirez ranked number 7, Cuello's ranked 15, and Perez is 7. But the other 2 fights are good too. Sofian Umiha is ranked 52, Jose Aguero is ranked 60. So, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd be able to do the whole fight card. I'd be able to do all 5 because our book is giving us all 5. So I've already built a parlay, and I already have action on it, but it's just a money line parlay. Okay, so Umiha is an Olympian. All right, Julian, you know the history as of late of betting on medalists in the Olympics. We've seen this, boys. Look, mate. We know the outcome got overturned, but think about the experienced Francisco Rodriguez Jr. versus the non-pro experienced Galoyafai. Think about the experienced Jazza Dickens against the non-experienced Albert Badagaziev. All I'm saying is we have another example of an experienced Francisco Fonseca, 42 pro fights, versus the inexperienced Sofiane Umar. I actually might go with the upset. I gotta be honest with you. Francisco Fonseca, I gotta do more film study, but if just we're basing things on, he's Nicaraguan, dude. Another Latin American fighter, 42 pro fights, 29 knockouts. You think it's easy? Okay. I have to do my due diligence. So I'm not making a prediction, but this guy's 42 pro fights, 29 knockouts. He hasn't lost since 2023. Fonseca's won 5 out of his last 6 by stoppage. He's fighting a 6-fight Frenchman. No offense to you French boys. I'm not high on French combat sports. So, like, I'm actually probably leaning on Fonseca. I'm going to watch tape. What's up, Mar the Prince? I got to watch tape, but I'm just looking at statistics here. And I wouldn't be comfortable betting on a 6-fight Frenchman against a 42-fight Nicaraguan with, 80% knockout to win ratio. Javier Herrera, Tito Mercado, Edwin De Los Santos. Hope to see them on the Canelo Crawford. Boxing fan, Heaven Sense in the house. Heaven Sense checking in. Guys, whenever you check in, tell me what's up and then like the video. As you're typing your messages and we're getting to it, just like the video. So let's make that a system. The second book I wrote is called The 24-Hour Reset. It's a book on habits, creating a healthy lifestyle through our daily habits. We could create habits on our live streams, mate. You check in and you like the video all at once. Now we got it. Let's go. Julius, no distances of play. Fonseca. Okay, I like that. Let's see what we're getting. I'm only getting money line options on the fights right now. But Fonseca's only not quite a 4-1 dog. Fresh BX, I'm not high on French combat sports. I use myself for betting. I'm serious. Fresh, are you agreeing with me? I'm dead. I have reasoning behind that too. Fresh BX. I don't know if you're clowning me or if you're serious, but yeah, when you look at like the legislation in France for years, they just recently allowed MMA in France, so it had to be underground. And then the style of French boxing, man, it's just, I'm not sold. I personally never bet on French fighters because of that. Fonseca doesn't really have any high-profile wins. He loses them all. History Vault saying he's not as bad per se, but he's there. But History Vault, do you remember? Jazza Dickens wasn't supposed to beat Badr Gaziev, and Jazza was a bigger underdog going into that fight in Turkey a couple weeks ago than Fonseca is. Jazza was a 6-1 dog. Boxing fan in the house, Rudy Pedroza. What's up, Rudy? My man. Fresh BX, yeah. Let's get it. Am I a Browns fan? I'm a Browns fan. Come on. Let's get it. Am I a Brown? I'm sadly to admit I'm a diehard Browns fan, mate. I go all the way back to Bernie Kosar playing quarterback, Webster Slaughter playing wide receiver. We had Kevin Mack in the backfield, Eric Metcalf returning punts, Hanford Dixon in the secondary, Clay Matthews in the middle. I'll keep going. I'm not too familiar with the fighters this weekend. So Joel, there Aussies, there is a card in Australia this Saturday. It's either in Brisbane, it's either in Queensland or Melbourne, but it's the first time ever in boxing history that a mom and a son will be on the same card. Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, a girl that is pretty much a household name in Australia with women's boxing, and her son. So that in itself, if we get options, I'm tuning in. And they'll probably give us some betting options probably tomorrow or Friday. And boys on the Discord, if we get those betting options on Australia, I'll share them in the Discord. Both Tank and Garcia stopped Fonseca early. War the Prince. Umija could be in Victor Morales, Rene Alvarado type of fight. This is quite a bit of a step up. Yeah, I'm waiting for options on that fight. I'm waiting for props, like Julia said. Maybe the fight to not to go the distance is in play. Heaven sent. Were you more shocked that Sriracha, who's French, knockout Munguia? Mate, I gotta be honest with you. I was shocked. I was shocked when we looked at Bruno. I think he had 4 total knockouts, and he stopped Munguia in Tijuana. It was shocking. I covered that fight. We live streamed that fight. A little fun fact about Sriracha. He was such an underdog going into Tijuana. Nobody saw him winning, to where after he beat Munguia, he wasn't able to do media because they didn't have a French translator in Tijuana. Think about that. That is insane. So in his biggest moment, Bruno couldn't talk to the media because there wasn't a French translator because nobody expected him to win. That is ridiculous. Joel, what's up? Mar the Prince. Cleveland has produced a boxing Olympic every Olympic since 2008. Ohio runs boxing. Cleveland in the house. Yes, sir. Don't sleep on Youngstown, though. My hometown. The Yo. August 20th, 23rd, I got marked on my Aussie calendar. I'm going to the fights. I'm going to the Nikita Zoo fight, not this Wednesday, the following week. Boxing man, where's McGee? No contest. Yep. All right, guys. So we're heating up. Give me some time. I'm gonna before I give a fair assessment, I want to break down Fonseca's tape with Umiha. Albert Ramirez is fighting a New Zealand-born fighter, Jerome Pampaloni. We've seen Pampaloni. We've seen Albert Ramirez. We just watched Albert Ramirez. It seems like a couple weeks ago. Albert Ramirez was on a Canadian card, and so he's $1.13. These guys could crack a little bit, so the money line really doesn't have too much value. Guys, if you take the money line on this weekend's card, this is a hypothetical. If you take 1, 2, 3, 4. If you take the 4 fights on the money line, it's $1.50. I'm still waiting for options to come out. History Vault says Fonseca's resume isn't deep in wins. He just has experience. Just scanning his resume, Bilal Dib and Zahora are his. Did he fight Billy Dib or his little brother Bilal? Yeah, that's not even Billy Dib either. That's Bilal Dib. Yeah, there's 3 of them. And then you got Yusuf. Billy's fighting again next month against Fleming. Paul Fleming is an Aussie, one of my favorite southpaws. Paul Fleming is a really high-level fighter. He stepped up once and lost at the world level once. And we know Billy's a former world champion. What's up, Black Notorious? Money says, Johnny, I like it. Heaven sent that August 23 was decent. Yeah, a girl boxer that I used to manage is on that fight card. She's going to get beat, though. She's from Australia. Yenli Hernandez, Jermaine Ortiz. Dude, people are sleeping on the Ortiz versus Claggett fight. I like that fight. That's going to be a fun fight to break down. I like both fighters. People sleep on Claggett because he has a handful of losses. But both guys fought Teofimo Lopez. Teo couldn't stop either one of them. Fair to say that the Teo against Claggett, the Teo against Ortiz was a different Teo than he fought against ABJ. And it's fair to say Teofimo's a guy, historically, for us to see his best, he has to get up for his fights. Yeah, she's going to get beat, mate. Look, there's like such a influx. Like women's boxing in Australia is insane right now. It is super popular. So what you're getting is a lot of girls. So also something I should mention to preface this statement is the fitness industry in Australia is insane. So when I first moved here in 2013, now I've only lived in Sydney, and Sydney is beautiful. I love where I live. The cost of living's high, but people make a lot of money. So when I first moved here in 2013, the first thing I noticed was like, holy shit, for the most part, everybody works out. It's, you have when you get out of the big cities and you go to the outback and you have these sort of country towns, you have your unfit, unwell sort of people. But for the most part in the cities, everybody works out. Because of this, what's happening in women's boxing is you get a lot of girls who are sort of like fitness girls, fit in shape. Maybe they're runners, maybe they're CrossFitters, and they then join a boxing gym. And then because the female divisions are so thin, look at some of the weight classes. Some of the weight classes globally only have a couple hundred girls in them. So if you put together a couple amateur fights and then you put together a couple pro fights and you start a pro career 6-0, you'll be fighting a ranked fighter soon enough. And this was the case with a girl I was managing. And, then the gyms, a lot of the gyms pad the records. You know how boxing is. What's up, Mar the Prince? Johnny leaning ball 7-12. This is Goodman's second fight of feather. Quite a big step up. Can't see him keeping ball off him for 12 rounds. History of all Bellotti turnaround fights. Yeah, let's Mar the Prince. I'll get to that right. Secondly, I want to history vault because history vault's answer is a bit quicker. Yeah, Bellotti's fighting again. Turnaround. We just saw Bellotti lose against Ryan Gardner. The boys on Johnny Says Boxing. We ate a lot on that fight. We called Ryan Gardner, so we hit that. Some of you guys didn't listen to me. But Bellotti, kudos to Bellotti getting another big fight. Turning around, and we'll see if he can get it done. He's fighting in October. But the whole Sam Goodman versus Nick Ball fight, not my official prediction yet, but I'm leaning towards, if anything, will the fight go the distance? Yes. If you want to get controversial, take Sam Goodman on the money line. If you want to get sexy, take Sam Goodman by decision. But just stylistically, I think Sam Goodman's style matches up perfectly with a Nick Ball. I think that the 4-pound jump from 22 to 26 is no big deal. Certain weight classes, when you're jumping up, it matters. I think 40 to 47 matters. I don't think 22 to 26 doesn't matter, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are going to see how good of a boxer Sam Goodman is. I think a lot of people are going to see how tough Sam Goodman is. He's a dog in there. You can't equate a low knockout to win ratio to a guy not being tough. You know what I'm saying? We just saw that with Kenny Sims Jr. There's this weird misconception with newer boxing fans when they look at a guy without a lot of knockouts and they instantly think he's not tough. That has nothing to do with being tough or not. It's the sport's called boxing, not knockout. Based on styles, I like Goodman. I like Goodman's style over Nick Ball's style. Nick Ball has an athletic pressure forward front foot style. I mean, Nick Ball, what he does really well, it's a nightmare to deal with. Nick Ball just being in your face. He's like a little, who do they call the Chihuahua? We just saw a fighter. His nickname is the Chihuahua. Nick Ball reminds me of that. He's all, and for a lesser experienced, a new pro, that could be a lot to deal with. Sam Goodman's none of that. Sam Goodman is an experienced pro, fights at the world level. I saw him beat Aleem. I was there for the Aleem fight. I was there for the TJ Doheny fight, a multi-division world champion. I was there for the Cesar Vaca fight, a really tough Mexican. Sam Goodman can fight, mate. This is a good fight. And if you're going to ask me right now, value-wise, you give me Sam Goodman at a 4-1 dog, I'm all over that. I'm not that high on Nick Ball. I got to be honest with you. I'm an athlete. I play sports. I love boxing. I'm able to differentiate a boxer from an athlete stylistically. I just don't like Ball's style. I don't. I think it's kind of sloppy. He rushes his work. I don't think this era, maybe it's me in denial as a boxing fan my whole life, is that I like to sit and believe that an athletic style doesn't beat a technical boxing style. I always side with the technical boxer. So, I'm not always right, but I think there's great value on Goodman to beat Nick Ball. And it's in Riyadh, and people are going to say A side versus B side. I don't believe that either. People know who promote Goodman. With Sam Goodman, you're getting a cult fan base. So I don't think I see Nick Ball. Does Nick Ball have a cult fan base? You're going to see a cheering section in Riyadh. I guarantee this. They travel. You're going to see a cheering section in Riyadh called the Mad Bunch for Sam Goodman. They travel with him everywhere. Nick Ball doesn't have that. And so I'm just using that as a narrative to defend the argument that if it's a close fight, they're going to give it to Ball. I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but I don't think it's a definite, because yeah, I think Sam Goodman's going to impress people. But wait till we'll get there. It's coming next week. There's a lot of fights coming next week. Somebody in the Discord said this is the calm before the storm. So I could definitely, it definitely feels that way. But hopefully I answered your question. Yeah, people are looking at Fonseca. He took Tevin Farmer the distance. Ryan Garcia stopped him in the first round. He lost to Hamazarian. That was his last fight. Joel, the fight to go the distance is $1.27. I'm not even getting those odds yet. But like that could be something added to a parlay, the fight to go the distance. But like I said, if the value stays so wide on Goodman and Ball, I mean, I'm probably going to take the dog, and not even just based on the odds. Like you guys know, I don't pick underdogs just because the odds. I'll pick an underdog if the odds are good and the style makes sense and the logic makes sense. Like I have no problem losing Kenny Sims Jr. against Oscar Duarte when Sims was a 4-1 dog. I'm fine with that loss. I think he was 3-1 by the time the fight went down. You can't be so if you have logic, reason behind it. It was a close fight. Kenny by no means got washed. I definitely had Oscar winning the fight, but I'm saying that sitting back just because as a bettor or a handicapper you missed that fight, it's not a bad one to miss. Some underdogs are good. They call them live dogs for a reason. Sam Goodman's a live dog. Adu says I've got Ball on 2 parlays. Like nice. Ball on paper, Ball should win, right? He should. Sam by decision, why not? There you go. Plus 580, mate. Dude. We should also mention he did get cut, the 2 cuts before the Inoue fight, why the fight got postponed then canceled. Postponed twice, canceled after the second. And then he got cut against Cesar Vaca as well. So somebody mentioned in the Discord, which I think there's truth to it. Maybe there's a prop bet. Maybe there's will the fight go the distance? No. If you're leaning on the fact that there might be a cut. Maybe there's a weird book out there that allows you to bet a prop bet on will there be a cut? Will the fight be stopped early due to a headbutt? That sort of thing. You have to think about that when you're talking about a Sam Goodman fight. Just because, lately what's happening on, and where those cuts are happening. Sometimes the brow isn't a bad cut, but sometimes it is if it keeps cutting here. You know what I mean? So it's something I'm going to cover in my breakdown. I'm going to break it down after this weekend. It's tough to look too far ahead. So right now, like I said, if we stick in Libya, if we go to Benghazi this weekend, and you take the 4 favorites, it's $1.50. 4 favorites on the money line, 100 on them gets you your money back plus $50. I'm gonna send the birds out to some of the big bettors I know. If they're really gonna roll the dice, I'm betting like 20 grand to win 10 grand on a card in Libya. I probably know the answer. They probably won't. So with that being said, it just depends on going into this weekend. Are you looking to put a couple wins together? Or are you looking for a hot underdog? You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna get to that in my second live stream today, and then tomorrow and Friday, because I am kind of thinking about a little bit of a controversial take with this Benghazi card. I definitely like Ramirez. If I could get an Albert Ramirez stoppage, I'm taking it. Mirko Cuello is a level above Sergio Rios. Cuello did get dropped in his last fight, and then he dropped his opponent late. And so I'm waiting for knockdown props in this fight. And then obviously, like I said, I'm doing the tape on the French Olympian Umiha versus Fonseca. And, maybe if Umiha is a buzzsaw, like some of you boys think he is, I think Julius thinks he's going to go in there and look great, then maybe there's a stoppage prop. But as of now, I'm not putting anything in stone just because all I'm getting are the money line options. And I don't want to give you that advice yet. It's only Wednesday morning here. It's Tuesday night where you guys are. By tomorrow, we could wake up and get options for Australia with the card going down on Saturday. I think that will be the case. So I'm going to wait. So Ramirez by stoppage. Mate, I love that bet, Marlon Prince. I do love that bet. It's now, he's at a stage in his career, he's kind of, I like how active, they're pushing him. He's not the youngest of guys. He's never lost. Jerome Pampoloni, he's going to present a good test to him. We're going to see. It's a good division. The division, traditionally, the big guys, they could crack. The fight could turn on one punch. Let's take a little glance at the UFC real quick. So this fight, my problem with the UFC, it's kind of like they kind of grew so big to where I think they're kind of going through one of the darkest eras right now. They don't really have like superstars. I think the UFC is watered down since, I mean, the pandemic. Kudos to Dana. He was one of the only, business owners that stayed open due to his move to the Apex. But I think because they have these fights at the Apex, there's no crowds, there's no energy. You're kind of burning through fighters, and I think there's just too many fights. I do. I like it's kind of like UFC has kind of turned into that sport where you just have it on in the background. But it was only a couple years ago when Conor was coming up, and then before Conor, Ronda, and before Ronda, Anderson Silva, and the rise of John Jones before that when he became the youngest champion. Um, it used to be a sport where we would all meet to watch a pay-per-view. Now it's like, it's just the UFC's on in the background. Johnny, it seems like you've been killing it more with the UFC than boxing. The thing is, Goat, I'm not gonna lie. I've always been killing it with the UFC. I just haven't told you guys. Um, I I hosted a gambling MMA show before I hosted a boxing MMA, a gambling boxing show. So, and that's not me. I'm not bragging. I've been winning on MMA and UFC for at least 10 years. I just haven't been broadcasting that on my YouTube. So I used to have a show on Instagram called Easy Money. The page is still up. I didn't disable it. I'll share you the page. And I did it with an MMA journalist from Washington D.C. And we'd go back and forth, man. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not. And I still win on boxing. It's just that I give you all my picks on boxing to where you can't win every pick on boxing. You know what I mean? So some of the losses on boxing as of late will stick out. Especially when we're picking underdogs in main events. That's gonna happen. And then with the draws as well, man. I've been getting burned with the draws. The Gucci Flores draw. I stayed away from the Pacquiao draw, and then the draw in Japan. And we were fortunate not to get another draw in Chicago. Either one of those fights could have been a draw. I mean, historically. Joel, I need some picks. I don't know anything. Joel, you're in the Discord. Follow guys in the Discord. All you boys who are Johnny Says Boxing Insiders. I have 3 threads in our Discord: boxing, MMA, and our betting parlay slips. So in that MMA thread, I put all my picks in there, and yeah, we hit 8 for 8 last week. All my upsets came in. Adu, super keen for your picks in the Nikita Zuko. I'll be there. We're gonna eat. Yep, my Australia does. We do really well in Australia. All right, cool. Check that thread out. So if we're taking a glance at this UFC card, this fight night card, there's a lot of parity to it. These cards kind of, I think the matchmaking, they can't even, if you guys don't know about the UFC, it's a 12 fight show, right? Pay-per-views will have a thing called the Fight Pass prelims, to where there'll be 1 or 2 fights separate to the prelims, and you can only watch those on UFC Fight Pass. So the business model is you have to pay for the UFC TV monthly subscription. I think I pay like $14.99 for it in Australia. So there's always 2 fights on that, and those are featured. Now, the fights on the undercard of the prelims, generally, that first fight on the prelim is usually either a first fight person or a fighter or 2 fighters who are on a losing streak that are about to get cut. You know what I'm saying? And then going up, you could kind of see more parity, all the way up until the main card. Now, they also do a thing called prelim feature fights, in which it's usually a person who's either been a champion before or have headlined before, and now all of the viewership, the streamers are watching that last fight on the prelims before they get to the main card. And historically, you'd see like fighters, like I said, like Holly Holm had taken that fight before. Misha Tate's been in that spot before. Michelle Watterson has been in that fight before. Ladies who had either been champions or, right at the cusp. And the odds-wise, those are usually 50-50 fights. That was my point. I usually avoid that fight to bet on, is why I'm bringing this up. So when you look at this card, like CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, I think Leroy Duncan is fighting on that featured prelim versus Eric Anders. Eric Anders is a former college football player. If you're an MMA fan, you would know him. Came into the sport late. He gets away with his athleticism. Awkward guy. He's a win one, lose one, win one, lose one sort of guy. And CLD is a former basketball player from the UK who I think he was a Cage Warriors champion. Super athletic, younger, has more energy to him. And he's one of my locks on the UFC this week. So CLD is a lock. And then other than that, man, they put Andre Feely and C-Rod on the main card, which is going to be a firefight. So I'm waiting for a prop to see if will that fight go the distance. And I'm going to give you these locks either tomorrow or Friday when I put my bets in. I'm just kind of running through with you guys. Angela Hill, Angela Hill, she was on the first season, the first ever all-female season of The Ultimate Fighter. It was season 20 or season 19. The reason why I know this is because my roommate at the time fought on that reality show. So I used to be roommates with the first ever female Australian UFC fighter named Alex Chambers. Her nickname was Astro Girl. And she was in that season. It was the season with Rose Namajunas, Angie Hill was in that season. Cookie Monster, the girl who ended up becoming a champion at 115. They were all strawweights, is my point. And Angie Hills went from a girl that was kind of like a fitness athlete. I think she might have did a little bit of, kickboxing in the North or South Carolina, to a girl who's a seasoned pro. I mean, look how many fights she has. I think she might have a 50-50 record, but she's fighting a really tough rising prospect, Jasmine Lucindo. Lucindo made her debut against, I think it was Jasmine Jauregui, a very tough Mexican prospect. Jauregui has kind of like had mixed results as of late. She got stopped badly a couple fights ago, but she is a nightmare striker to deal with. And Lucindo, blood and guts fight, life and death. It was either a draw or Lucindo won. So where they are in their career, Angela Hill, she's slower. She's not explosive. She's just going to be sitting there. I like Lucindo. I need to see the odds more on will the fight go the distance. Angie Hill historically will go the distance in her fights. Lucindo does look for the stoppage, so that's going to be an interesting one. And Urseg versus Ode Osborne. This is guys, when you look historically at statistics on this, Steve Urseg is an Aussie who fought for a world title, I think, in his third pro fight. He's from Perth. He comes out of that scrappy MMA scene out of Perth, which, produced Jack Della Maddalena, and there's other up-and-comers. The Aussie MMA scene as a whole, as you could tell, is sharp, is really good on both coasts, Sydney and in Perth. So my point is with Urseg, who's fighting Ode Osborne. Ode Osborne's super athletic, tough everywhere. Got, never really was on the, you can't really say world level because when you make it to the UFC, they're all world level in MMA. But Urseg has kind of had mixed results since he lost a really close fight in a world title fight. I mean, he's been stopped since. They're getting a co-main for a reason. I'm still torn on where I'm leaning with that, but I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about sprinkling something on the dog. But I'll give you my exact pick in a couple days. And then the main event, Roman Dolidze versus Fluffy. Guys, Fluffy Hernandez goes into almost every fight as an underdog. All you have to know about Fluffy, if you think of your favorite boxer who's a tough as nails, durable Mexican, who people are going to undervalue, underrate every single time, even if he's won as a doll before, never gets his flowers, that's Fluffy Hernandez. This dude is a monster. He's tough as nails. His cardio's through the roof. People look at him. He's one of those guys that when you meet in person, you're like, Jesus Christ, he's huge. But when you look at him, like when you're watching on TV, he's not going to be like, he's not going to win a fitness competition. He doesn't look like a bodybuilder. He doesn't look like he's super intimidating. But the kid, dude, he tapped out. He fought Rodolfo, a guy who came from Brazil who just was the world champion in the BJJ Jiu-Jitsu worlds. I think the no-gi worlds. And Fluffy tapped him. He still fights in the UFC. Rodolfo, I think he just fought actually. And he was a 4-1 dog. And he submitted the Jiu-Jitsu world champion. So the dude's tough as nails. Roman Dolidze is a guy from Georgia, the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, who's a bully, big, aggressive, in your face. Balance isn't that good. He gets by with a power. He gets by with his grittiness. And man, I think he's going to walk right into Fluffy Hernandez's guard. And I think Hernandez, Rodolfo Vieira. And I think Fluffy is going to trade with him for a bit. And I'm kind of leaning on, I'm checking the odds right now. This would be a prop. Now, this isn't a, this would be a prop lock. So the odds right now on the money line, Fluffy's the interesting. Fluffy's the favorite at $1.27. I didn't know that. Delite's the dog. Those odds are interesting. Fluffy by submission, 320. Fluff. He wasn't the favorite. Fluffy wasn't the favorite against. What were the odds against Vieira? He was a big dog against Vieira. They're hip to him now. Then, I guess I'm talking about his come up from the regional scene when he got signed a couple years ago to the UFC. His origin story. He's the favorite here. That's interesting. So I would avoid the money line. Hernandez by knockout or submission. 2-1. Hernandez. Wow, they're giving me Hernandez by submission or on points. Hernandez by stoppage or points. Yeah, I like that fight. Give me a couple days. I'm actually gonna do some I think I'm gonna do my first Stats Don't Lie MMA video this week. We'll see. I asked you guys in the Discord if you wanted me to do one. So Hernandez. So Fluffy, yeah, plus 300. I picked Hernandez as a dog to win by sub. I won a lot of money. And so my Facebook always does the memories. What I'm gonna start doing, Johnny, you posted this 3 years ago. I'm gonna start sharing all those memories of the UFC picks because I've never done that. I've been betting on MMA and UFC for, like I said, probably for 10 years. 72 MMA right now. It's my wheelhouse, man. It's just when I was featuring only MMA on my YouTube channel, nobody watches. Like, I was interviewing, like, the interviews I was doing, I've interviewed Stipe Miocic when he was the champion. This was the era when Matt Brown, Carlos Condit, the Robert Whitaker, before he was a champion, I interviewed Rob in his little apartment in Green Acres in Western Sydney. And I watched Rob go from this kid from the reality show to a world champion. Hoist Gracie in an octagon. Hoist is in my first book. He's chapter 4. So I've been watching MMA since there were no rules, man. 93, the first MMA, the first UFC. When Hoist won UFC 1, 2, and 4, he lost 3 due to exhaustion. And then I watched all the Pride events. In my late teens, one of my favorite organization was the Pride out of Japan. You had fighters like Kazushi Sakuraba, Vanderlei Silva. They called Sakuraba the Gracie Hunter because Sakuraba at the time would beat all the Gracies. And at the time, and he wasn't trained specifically in anything. Sakuraba was a Japanese wrestler, like a WWF style wrestler. But in Japan, they do a thing called catch wrestling. So catch wrestling is a lot of submission locks, joint locks, that sort of thing, hip tosses, hip throws. And Sakuraba was also a dog. So he would do a foot stomp. One of his go-to moves was you'd be on your back, and his opponent would be, baiting him to pull guard, and Sakuraba would just do a double foot stomp on their head. You were allowed to do soccer kicks. It was insane. And I watched all the way through that era, the awful, and then when the UFC went from, kind of no holds barred, and they, Dana ended up pitching to the Fertitta brothers. Lorenzo Fertitta and his brother were already multimillionaires in Vegas. And I think this would have been 2002, 2003, watched all through that era. And then I'm still watching boxing up until this too. And then when my buddy Kelly went pro around when we were 18, around 2000, 2001, I really was traveling with Pavlik during his pro career. And then was at all the Kelly's world title fights. Then when Pavlik retired, I think in 2010, when we were 29, he had a light seizure. He just had a kid. He had kind of a light seizure, a light stroke sort of thing, and it scared him. He was 29 or 30. And the media wrote, a bunch of horse shit on why he didn't fight again. But that's why it was a health scare. And I'm glad he hung him up. He has no signs of damage, super cognizant, does a lot of great work in our community in Youngstown, Ohio, works with the kids, has a gym, has a promotion company. Kelly the Ghost Pavlik is a stand-up legend, one of the nicest guys you ever meet. But then when he retired, I kind of stopped watching boxing. For a bit up until I dove really, really back into boxing around, like I'm talking every fight, probably around 2018, 2017, 2018. And then from like 2010 to 2017, I'm watching every single UFC fight, interviewing fighters, writing books about it, that sort of thing. So anyway, one of my business investors. So I did a documentary in 20. We started filming in 2019. You know, I pitched it to Sony Pictures. I went to LA and Hollywood to pitch to Sony. I had business investors. We filmed in Cyprus. We filmed in Myanmar. We filmed in LA. We filmed in Sydney. And I traveled the world with a bare knuckle world champion in a sport called Lethwei. So Lethwei is an ancient martial art from Burma, modern day Myanmar, Yangon. And the Burmese fighters, it's where Muay Thai came from. So Lethwei is bare knuckle Muay Thai, but the headbutt is legal. So elbows, hands, knees, kicks, boom, headbutt. And there's no scoring. And if you don't knock your opponent out, it's a draw. And there's a rule called the 2-minute resuscitation rule, to where if you knock me out, my corner has 2 minutes to revive me. So I could be knocked out cold. And you guys bring smelling salts in, shaking my legs, wake me up. And then that's a rule in the sport. And so I interviewed a guy who was the first ever Western world champion in that sport from Canada, named Dave Leduc, and I traveled with him. And then during that experience, one of the guys who invested all the business, all the equipment, all the travel, everything, he was like, bro, he was like, because at the time, even on my channel, I was interviewing like rocket scientists, I was interviewing best-selling authors, I was interviewing a lot of MMA fighters. He was like, bro, you need to just do boxing. Because we would hang out, we'd go to bars, we'd drink together. He was like an older brother than me. And we'd watch boxing matches together. And he kind of picked up on, like, that was kind of my wheelhouse. He was like, you need to just do boxing on your YouTube, and just that. It took me another 2 years until about 2023. And that's when Johnny Says Boxing, the channel, was just boxing. And now I've grown it since then to about a little over 26,000 subs. And that's where we are right now, to catch you guys up. So I'm not just picking the UFC and MMA picks just out of my ass. You know, it's something that I've been watching since jump. I like to think I'm equally as good at both. You know, boxing is, I don't think I'm better at one than the other. It's just you guys on my channel, a lot of my newer fans, newer subs only know me as boxing. So it might look a certain way. But anyway, guys, we're 42 minutes in. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk MMA. Shoot, whoever has the next question, let's hear it. We'll cover that. Because we got a busy month coming. I mean, we're about to take a turn. This week, we're all kind of just relaxing. We had a huge July. Boxing has been intense with all the big fights. And this is kind of like the calm before the storm. So I'll keep it going a couple more minutes. If you guys don't have any more questions, I'm gonna shut it down. But I know some of the hot topics is, the Raymond Ford fight. People are asking me about Ray Ford versus Nova. Mike Perez TKO. Are you getting odds on that one? Yeah, Abraham Nova versus Raymond Ford. I mean, that's an interesting fight. Instinct, I would say Ray Ford, but we would be ill-advised to just throw Abraham Nova away. Abraham Nova is a nice little pro. I mean, I had Nova beat, wasn't it? Was it Conceição? Money Meach has been using this slow week of boxing looking to CFB. Oh, Money Meach, I'm an NCAA football guy, dude. The most money I've ever won was in college football, but I can't just start doing every guy like I bet on boxing, MMA, and NCAA football. Usyk sub is unplayable. His knockout stands out though. Yeah, Cheeky. The thing about Usyk too, when we're thinking about how this fight plays out, is we know that he's gonna be in the wheelhouse. He sets up. He's looking to finish or get finished. Yeah, he's exciting. He's a fun fighter. Yeah, it was Shock Foster, Oshaki. That's the one. Nova got robbed against it. My bad. Nova got robbed against Cortez. I was thinking of when Foster got robbed against Conceição. That was insane. That first fight. I had Foster winning. Was it a 10-rounder? I had him winning 8-2. If it was a 12-rounder, I had him 10-2. I thought Conceição got beat. Like, I couldn't believe. I was shocked. I actually did a video on that. And I never say if there's a robbery. I never say there's a robbery. That was awful. That Conceição decision was terrible. Do I think Usyk has good boxing? See, I'm gonna answer this question because I talked about this. Yeah, 12. So it was a 12. Like I said, I'm a little under the weather right now. My cognition is a little bit. It's not as sharp as normal. But for Usyk's boxing for MMA is good in an octagon, but it's not boxing. I blame this stuff on Joe Rogan. I do. I stopped. I was an early Joe Rogan fan. I haven't listened to Joe Rogan in years, but he used to always try to sell the public on that Nate Diaz has good boxing, and then he would gaslight us boxing fans who would watch his show, because then he would try to say that he was a big boxing fan and he would talk about Roy Jones Jr. a lot, and then he would have like some boxers on the show, but then he'd say things like Nate Diaz has good boxing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Nate Diaz's boxing is so shitty. He's terrible feet, terrible timing, doesn't set anything up, doesn't move his head, doesn't do angles. It's horrible. And so because of that, I think it's kind of created this rhetoric of like, if a MMA UFC fighter stands and throws a 1-2 straight, that they have good boxing. When I hear good boxing, I'm not talking about could he throw a 1-2 straight, I guess. I'm being a bit critical. When I hear good boxing, I'm thinking about, could he box? What's his range like? Does he set things up? Does he, angle off? Does he move his head? I think Ilia Topuria has decent, good boxing. I think Josh Van has a nice fundamental boxing skill set. I like Adrian Yanez, his clinch work in the clinch, his boxing. I mean, Yanez, not many MMA fighters will throw in the clinch a lead uppercut to a hook in an MMA fight. Yanez has a couple knockouts with that combo. Jack Della Maddalena, he actually sets up his offense with a jab. You don't see that in MMA, so you got to say his boxing is decent. But to talk about Nate Diaz having good boxing, at one time this was the pinnacle people would talk about. I'd be like, what are you talking about? What am I not seeing? What am I not seeing, Joe Rogan? PJ the Puppet Show's in the house. What's up, PJ? Cheeky Elbow. Jazz. Turkey wants Shiraz Nello. Bud is going to get robbed. Huh. Interesting. I think Mirko and Sophia, MMA better. So, yes. Yeah, Mirko Cuello is going to beat Rios. I'm still torn on the Frenchman, though. Bud getting stopped. Ooh, boxing fan with a hot take. Does it happen late, boxing fan? Bud getting stopped. Do you think Mirko and Sophia win on Friday? I have Mirko Cuello beating Sergio Rios. I'm just not quite sold on Umija. So Umija is the French Olympian with about 6 fights. He's fighting Fonseca, 42 pro fights. I just found out that the Frenchman Umija is a silver medalist. We know as of late, if we think just in the last month, the Olympic medalists who have under 10 pro fights, fighting against veterans who are underdogs, it doesn't always go in the medalist's favor, especially as of late. Albert Badagaziev, Jazza Dickens fight, Francisco Rodriguez Jr., Galalia 5 fight. So I'm just hesitant. I'm going to do the tape. I'm not sold on the French guy. Like I said, I don't like betting my money on French combat sport athletes. Wesco, Johnny, you probably will make a video. Yeah, I am. Wes, give me next week. I'm definitely releasing Goodman versus Ball. MMA better. Early missed stoppage. Coach Bermudez, appreciate you, brother. I never could find your locks on Discord. So Coach Bermudez, go to the thread. You know what? If you can't find them on the Discord, then that means that they're getting drowned out. So I might actually start a thread, a separate channel, a thread on our Discord that just has my locks. Because we do have the parlay bet slips. All the boys put their locks on it. I'll do one just mine. People have been asking. Coach Bermudez, I appreciate you supporting the channel with the super chat. That's going to be enough for me to take the plunge and start. I'm going to start one more thread on our Discord, and it'll just be Johnny's Locks, and it'll be up there. I appreciate you. Way to push me forward on that. Yeah, Money Meats. There we go. The boys have spoken. All right, I'm doing it. Appreciate it. Sometimes that's all. Sometimes I need a push. My girlfriend says the same thing. Johnny, you push back. We'll be talking about dinner. It'll be like trying a new restaurant or something. And I'll push back. She goes, you always push back initially, and then you cave in and give way. I'm like, I think by nature, I'm a contrarian. You know what I mean? Like, by nature, if everybody wants something, I'm like, I don't want it. I might just say I don't want it just because everyone else wants it. But give me some time. You guys, even with the Discord, you guys were asking me for like a month or so to start one. It took me a month, and I started one. So dude, even with doing fight predictions, guys, if you're OG Johnny Says Boxing subs on the channel dating back maybe last year this time, I was doing just Stats Don't Lie videos, but I wasn't giving my prediction. So you guys were like, what's your prediction? What's your prediction? So keep asking, and I guarantee I'll end up coming around. Adelaide Hergovich is a banger. Jazz, how do you feel about going heavy on heavyweights, though? Betting-wise, I kind of like, I'm always hesitant. I'll bet the heavies, but I don't put a lot of, I sometimes will sprinkle something on them. Heavyweight boxing, for me, it's not one of my strengths with gambling. My strengths, winning percentage-wise, are Australian boxing cards and long parlays. Money line long parlays. Meven Raven, what's up, buddy? That's why I didn't bet last week. Johnny was like, that's why? Okay, Meven. All right, Raymond, I didn't know this. I was holding you boys back. It'll change this week. Trust me, I'm going to do that as soon as I upload my next video. Coach Bermudez, I have a lot for you. Post it in our Discord, Bermudez. Excited for Itama versus White card, 100%. Hamzat versus DDP. I'm definitely going to do that card. People have been waiting for that fight. So great. Yeah, the Johnny Says Insiders with the Blue Stars. The boys are supporting the channel. The channel is growing. Boxing fan, you've been a driving force. Appreciate the support and the positivity. Yeah, guys, so all you guys who want to join the Discord, you got to join here first. It's a couple bucks a month. The link is pinned in the comment section. Johnny Says Boxing Insider membership, and you get access to our Discord. Heaven Sent, that comment is insane. Yeah, King Green. Dude, Bobby Green, though, man, no comment. I've been a Bobby Green fan since early jump days, and then to a certain extent, because he never got to the level of, yeah, I've just seen a lot of changes in his discipline, mate. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because when he's grooving, when he's cooking, man, he's fun to watch. The nut distance is 120 on Bet365. Adelaide Hergovich, I gotta tell you, but I'm like, yeah. I'd probably look at a knockdown prop too. You know, guys, we're approaching 54 minutes. They are understandable. I'm talking about outside of the ring, Heaven Sent. I'm talking about discipline outside of the gym, outside of the octagon. I'm talking about focus, things that, you know, get the same thing that gets you to the dance. I mean, and you can't, I mean, he's had a long career, probably an overachiever if you ask a lot of people. But to me, a couple fights ago, when he finally got his flowers, I forgot what specific of fight it was. It was either when he first got a main event and like the average MMA fan didn't even know who he was, and I had been watching him for over a decade. And he wins a big fight and he starts getting his flowers. I think he was on Rogan's podcast with his coach. They tell that story about his coach going to prison and what it was like for Bobby growing up in like a broken home in California. And then from that point on, you put all this work, this energy, this discipline into getting to this point. And then it seems to me, rather than doubling down on that discipline, he kind of went the other way. That's all I'm saying. Mentally. But I'm a coach. So I'm very critical about discipline. That's one of the thing that drives me is, you know, healthy lifestyle, healthy habits, discipline, focus, ethics, morality. But these are just my own, this is how I'm wired. And so with fighting, when you see guys carry them, I shared a post on my Instagram last night about Sugar Ray Robinson. And Sugar Ray Robinson was talking about his goal was always to become a world champion. But to become a world champion inside the ring, you must become a world champion outside of the ring. And, that's something that the wisest words have never been spoken, in my opinion. Obviously, it's a combat sport. It's a blood sport. Savages, you know what I'm saying? So you get a lot of guys who will probably have like not as stellar roundabout careers because they lack the discipline. They could have had better careers if they would have just been more focused outside of the ring. I started a box at home with garbage bag on me. Nice. What's up, Arta? Arturo Ara in the house. Appreciate you guys here. 24 people in. The chat's fading. It's midweek. Appreciate all the support. I'm going to keep it on for a couple more minutes. Somebody said Mike Perez versus Christian Luis. Arta, I'm good, man. It's Wednesday morning. I'm a little bit under the weather. I've been live for about an hour. Woke up with, I'm just, this thing in my throat. Not a sore throat, because as a kid, I got my tonsils out. So I think I dodged the sore throat bullet. But when I get sick, it kind of like just gets dry. Heaven Sent says, and that applies almost every career, lack of discipline. Exactly. Here's my favorite quote about dreams, Heaven Sent. So I interviewed a guy named, he was on Tony, he's a, what would you call him? He was a college football player. He used to message me all the time. Tony, he's like a motivational speaker. And, he speaks in front of like 20,000 people. He's been on Oprah before. And he said, if you don't build the life of your dreams, somebody will hire you to build theirs for them. And those words always stuck with me. Tony Gaskins Jr. is his name. But it's one of my favorite quotes. If you don't build the life of your dreams, somebody will hire you to build theirs for them. And he tweeted that, I think, in 2013, 2014. And since then, it's been kind of like reproduced, regurgitated. Other people have gotten credit for it. But you could date that original tweet too, Tony. Good dude. He's probably my age, has a couple young sons now. I helped his son, either is going into college, but when his son was 15, I was helping do his strength and conditioning. They live in Texas. I think they started out in Atlanta. And Tony played college football in West Virginia. But yeah, big following online. Wise dude. If you guys are into philosophy, motivation, he's kind of a beast. Yeah, I need to get some, thanks boxing fan, I need some honey and water. I need something, maybe some lemon, honey, some pepper. I'm going to do the saltwater goggle. Buddy McGirt's training Dylan White. I think he's, Buddy McGirt, legend. I didn't know that. He's training Dylan. Is this a Hail Mary, though? You know what I mean? Buddy McGirt is training Dillian White. Yeah, Andy Lee has a lot of pop on him right now. People are high on Andy Lee. Results speak for themselves. He needs to do it for a longer time for me. But, he was a decent pro, a tough pro. And, when you got guys like Joseph Parker backing you and you see the recent performance, Ben Whitaker, let's hope Berlanga bounces back. I see it be the plant or fought Resendez. How about Berlanga versus, do you see who fought last weekend, boys? Gabe Rosado. Gabe fought. How about Gabe versus Berlanga? Yeah, I think Buddy's probably just saying that. Do y'all see Dillian White as a good fighter? Well-rounded? I think it's a tough fight. I think Dillian White's in for it against Moses. DAZN just released training camp with White. McGirt was talking about taking it to him. Well, I mean, McGirt has to say that. So McGirt's telling him his game plan. There's no deep waters if that pool gets drained early. You know what I'm saying? There's no way to... If there's nowhere to swim, you ain't going in the deep end if that pool's drained. We know what Otama's game plan is. Gabe Rosado. Yeah, I want to see Gabe versus Berlanga, mate. That's why we love boxing. It's so romantic. You get a guy like Gabe, which most people didn't even know was fighting last week, fights against, a club guy, all of a sudden wins. And now, due to, mishaps in other guys' careers, we would probably watch a Rosado versus Berlanga fight. Or Rosado versus Munguia. McCumbee, throw McCumbee in there. McCumbee would knock out Berlanga. Y'all boys love McCumbee. You crazy. I would not take McCumbee over Berlanga. Plant versus Berlanga. I like it. What happened to the Charlos? Anybody know anything about Charlos? Melakuziev, yeah, Bektemir. The first guy to stop Bektemir. Munguia already beat Rosado. Yeah, but let's see what have you done again. Let's see it again. Let's do rematches. They could probably sell some tickets, guys. We're an hour in. I got to run. I'm gonna upload Cuello versus Rios. Javon Green, man, we've been on for an hour. You missed a lot. You could run it back though. I'm gonna upload this to the playlist section. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to Johnny Says Boxing Insiders, guys. You get that blue star. More importantly, you get access to our Discord. I'm going live again one more time today, and I appreciate all the support. Let's get it.